Hello people, and welcome back to part 38 of Ilos, our modded Cities Skylines build. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for all the support across the live stream over the weekend. We had a really nice time building together a very Phoenix-inspired sort of baseball training / facility area. Of course, taking inspiration from Phoenix. It turned out really nicely. Super happy with it. It's a very weird configuration. And of course, we went for the old red, white, and blue outside of the baseball stadium. Which sits really nicely in the foreground of the downtown now, doesn't it? Just absolutely enormous, so thank you so much for all the support across it. However, today we are heading back over to Main Street because we want to make some more developments over on this side of the city because it's a little bit naked and it's a little bit exposed at the minute, so we want to see if we can dress Main Street in a loincloth, so to speak. So we've got some cute ideas today. I want to try and play with the fact that we have this train line coming through the middle. We're going to use Traffic Manager and slow this down and almost make a little pedestrianized train area, if you will. Something quite American, but hopefully we should be able to factor it in. Also, plenty of high-rises and indeed some more corporate vibes to be brought in here. Some car park reworks and then some more residential suburban expansion to take place in the grid to the west. But there should be some nice ideas in store today and hopefully something quite unique at the same time. So let's develop Main Street and Cities Skylines, shall we? Okay, first of all, let's prepare the space that we're working with today. A lot of these car packs that we built on a live stream, I'm no longer happy with, and I want them in a slightly different configuration. So everyone is going to go home. And then, of course, we just amend our service painter brushes as well. So we have this train line in Ilos. Of course, this is the one that runs to the other side of the Mar grid. And I'm thinking that I'd actually like to keep it elevated, or at least above ground, for a touch longer than it actually already is. So let's go ahead and grab those nodes and move it. And then we're going to set them to the same height as up here. Use a little bit of network multi-tool here in a second. But for the time being, this should give me what I'm after. Come ahead and draw in some new road frames now as well. Let's come into our 4-lane roads. And we're probably going to go for a Vanilla Plus one, I imagine. Because we're playing with the Vanilla Plus roads here, so we'll try and keep it into the same pack. And let's go for a 5-lane asymmetric. This should be quite sensible. Yep, then we'll just cross this over, feed it into those next frames, and then of course just adjust our asymmetry so the more junctions are actually flowing out onto Main Street, and then some squared off node controller action that would also be helpful as well. Tremendous, so that's really all the network prep we have to do today. We already have our suburban frames laid out here. So now I'd like to have a look at what assets are actually going to sit. So we've talked about reusing assets that we've used before, in order to save yourself having to go back on the workshop and use yet more RAM and continuing to feed all of your subscription addictions. There is support available in the Discord if you are addicted to the Steam Workshop. But there's this little unit here. Which one is this? Let's have a look. This is from the Salt Lake City pack. So it's the Beneficial Financial Group Tower. So I'm going to copy this, and then we're going to bring it over to our space here today. So let's go for... have one. Right, and then we're going to go for 2. So these are going to be my main pops of height for the area. So let's just move one out of the way for the minute. Then we want to align this now so it starts to sort of sit against the Main Street in an appropriate fashion. Also got the Banhammer Bank outside of it as well, which is quite sort of appropriate if these are sort of banking financial towers. And we can really get involved with them on Main Street. And they look super cool from these sports fields as well. It's very Phoenix, isn't it? Very Phoenix. So super happy with this aesthetic. And because its original placement is kind of tucked away in the skyline here, you can't really tell that we're using the same asset again. So it's going to be fine. Saves me having to subscribe to a new skyscraper. So it's wonderful. So we're going to have this here. Next thing I want to do is actually jump into Ploppable Rico. We're going to grab some high density vibes. I'm looking for a specific asset from the Art Deco pack. Now this is going to be the radio station. Okay, so it's a bit of a bold choice, but please do bear with me. We're going to have to do some building spawn points work today here as well, which should be okay. And then I just want to fuse this onto the back of the building. Right, and then same again on this side. Just want them to fuse together. We're going to treat it as though it's an extension of the asset itself. Now, what I do want to do furthermore, we can see that this beneficial tower is actually kind of a rancid white colour, isn't it? So why don't we see if we can mimic that colour with repaint on the assets beneath it. It doesn't have to be exact. We can't unfortunately copy it from that one because it's registered as white, but we can eyeball it pretty much. Let's copy that colour and then throw it over into this one. There we go, and then we'll make them both historical too. We're hoping now, with all our angles aligned, it kind of looks like there's a just second tier to the tower, doesn't it? The windows on these Art Deco ones match the ones on the tower. It just fleshes it out a little bit more. What I'd also like to do is to drop in one of these little high density commercial numbers as well, like the Chloe building, and then just using Move It to finagle it into the side of the main tower. Again, I'm hoping it's just going to add a little bit of sort of importance and design into the bases of the tower. Alright, I think it's pretty cool, isn't it? Because of these assets, they have such a wide flat base on them. We can definitely be a little bit more creative, I think, can't we? Cool, so now we're happy with our design. Let's go ahead and grab all buildings, move it, and then we can just copy and paste this one over now. And again, we're going to have this exact tower over here. Again, we know we've looked at Main Street before. We see plenty of repeated tower action, and indeed I'm taking a point of inspiration from a real block on Main Street here today too. Well, there we go, there is our sort of new pops in height in Main Street. Very nice, isn't it? I want to do the same thing over here again with repaint. Just go ahead and paste in that same colour. And everyone's going to be happy. Tremendous. Cool. So, that's our first sort of plaza area configured, if you like. Relatively happy with that so far. Of course, I'll do all the building spawn points during the design time-lapse. And then I want to use another building we used in the Skyline as well, which is the London Capital. So I'm pretty sure that this one's office zoning, isn't it? Yes, it is. Wonderful. Yeah, although 64 workers, that's a little bit high. Let's go ahead and add our own worker count into that. Let's just go for 10. There's too much. It's kind of realistic population vibes, that one. Cool, yeah, so we'll have that one have 10 workers. That's going to be great. And again, a little finagle will be more than welcome. Tremendous. That's great, isn't it? Happy with that. Going to be another little facility for us. What I'd like to do now is come into our park life areas, and then we want to go ahead and grab the park life area. And thankfully, when we did the golf course suburb, we did actually build in the park life area, so we're going to make this part of the same plaza. It's going to allow us to place those assets nice and easy. And then we'll come in and grab a pathway. Let's go for something quite upmarket, I think. Probably one of the liberal arts ones. At least the university path. Then we just want to draw this snapped into the grid. Yeah, we'll have that run through. That's going to be great, okay? A little bit of interconnectivity is always welcome. Tremendous. And again, in the theme of stealing assets from the Skyline, I'm thinking we're going to use this one. This one has very sort of strong trade center vibes, I think primarily because it is the Utah World Trade Center. But I think what I'm going to do with the trade center is just repaint it into a slightly different color. Maybe something along those lines, okay? I think I'm happy with that. And then what I can do is just go ahead and grab building again from Rico, but in its original state and color. We'll drop that in there. Now again, because we've coloured it and it's at a different angle, you can't really tell that that tower over there in the Skyline is actually the same one that we're using for a little kind of corporate Main Street plaza like this. Okay? So it's all about repurposing assets, right? You don't have to always go to the workshop and open a new candy bar. Sometimes the candy bars you already have can be, I don't know, recycled, I guess, right? I don't know where I was going with that sentence, but here we are. Okay, tremendous. So even now, Main Street is starting to pick up some new 11 secret herbs and spices, isn't it? It's all slowly coming together. Yes, please, everyone. Very nice indeed. So let's come back into find it now, and we're going to go ahead and search for a parking garage. I know the one that I want to use is going to be King Lenovo's Downtown Modern. And again, just looking back at Google Earth all the time for what you're building, you know, what is your theme? I can see that this building is just fused into the side of this one. Alright. That's going to give us a really cool aesthetic of some building fusing with some, you know, car parking in there too. It's very cool. It's very cool. I like the gameplay here as well. Tremendous. Awesome. So those are our sort of main tower sort of fusing complexes done. Let's now have a look at how we're going to almost kind of pedestrianize a train line. Okay, so now let's discuss this little middle train bit. So I'm going to use some tileage here, and I think I'm going to go for the workshop ones. You could also use the park life ones for this, or indeed the zoo tile would probably work nicely as well. Oh, yard tiles would also be a good shout. Yeah, we're going to go for the brick ones, I've decided. Well, let's not get indecisive now. Okay, so we want to line these up really. So we're flush with the edge of the pavement texture, which we basically are there. And then we just want to have these run all the way up until the edge of the train line. That's going to be splendid. We also want to surface paint the whole thing beforehand as well. It's just going to stop any sort of sprite sticking through that shouldn't be sticking through. Give it a big concrete brush. We'll of course detail it and make it look a little bit less obnoxious come the end. Alright, but those are our tiles down. Let's not use move it to select only decals with a mass marquee selection. Then we're just going to line these up along the edges. Okay, just very simple tile detailing. Done this a couple of times before already. Then once we've got 3 rows in, we can just reselect what we want to copy and paste and then start to do it in bulk. Okay, so there we go. We now have our sort of brick plaza pattern all around the banking towers. This is going to be quite nice. And of course, we'll bring some pathways and decorations through here eventually as well. Then what I'd like to do is come back into Move It, and we're going to use the wonderful world of network planters, which we have been trying to avoid recently due to the node count, but this is perfect for them, so we can't really deny them. So what I'd like to do is to just draw them in left to right. Again, we're going to align it about here, I reckon. It should be okay. Let's do this side first, actually. Yeah, so within this space here, it's going to come in, we'll turn off collision as well. And then we just want to align it pretty much with the electrical poles if you want. Then we're also going to use network skins here, and we're actually going to remove the power lines. So we upgrade train line without them. And possibly down here as well. Cool. Just so it's a little bit less industrial looking. And we're starting to generate a little sort of pedestrian, train area now. It's a unique way to use a train line, I think, but it's something that we can all get on board with. Come back in to Move It again, and we're going to grab all of our nodes this time. Yeah, we just want to grab the nodes of the network planter, really. And yeah, that's wonderful. Let's also select segments and then come into a mirror function. And then we're going to mirror that planter exactly opposite this side. And then you'll just see that it's going to align all the trees at the same point for us, which makes it nice and symmetrical. And it's going to really frame that train line, although there's people walking across it. What are you doing, guys? What the hell? We will eventually give a pathway here as well, of course. We can see that some of the decals do ever so slightly tear up onto the bottom of the planter, which is a little bit weird. But I'm guessing that's maybe part of prop snapping that's doing that. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll sort it out anyway. We'll just move the decal over a little bit. Tremendous, that's wonderful. Okay, so now let's continue to focus on these little pedestrianised spaces. It would be both splendid and tremendous if we could bring down a pathway here. And we'll grab the nodes, and then I just want to finagle this a little bit closer toward parking garage. Probably about there should be good for me. And of course, because we've drawn out that park life area, we can now easily place in some plazas, for which I think I'm feeling this one right here. Just the regular park plaza should do me a job. Fantastic. I think we can possibly afford to move the Utah Trade Center up to the pavement actually, so it's right against the street front on the curb. I think I'm on board with that. Very nice. Okay. And then I'd like to return to those pathways. Let's come into a normal behaviour pattern now. And then we're going to elevate up by 5 meters, I think. We're also going to snap into angle as well here. And then no node snapping either. Okay, so we'll have that in there. And I can just amend things as I need. I'm happy to have the building clip through the pathway a little bit, but I'd rather have it at an appropriate spacing. Probably like about there. So it looks like the handrails kind of go or finish at the building and then it carries on around it. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I think I can definitely get away with it as well. I'd also like to draw in the pathway on the opposite side, of course, so it all becomes walkable. That's tremendous. Happy with that now. And then we can just bring this one over to about here. And then we might need to finagle our tower in a little bit, but we'll worry about that in a second. And then we'll just do some little 2-unit curves. And then we'll slowly sink back down to earth as we create a wonderful little pedestrian loop over this side. So the tiles do kind of hug the pathway, which looks weird, but I kind of like it. It's like almost a design. Like they've faded the tile pattern out as it comes up the pathway. I'm not sure. It's going to need a little bit of work, but we might be able to do something with that. Right? Tremendous. Cool. So yeah, I just want to use Move It now to select our buildings. Let's go for just these ones. Be okay. And then just finagle them across a little bit so it's not clipping with pathway anymore. And this is just going to create us, there we go, here's the train coming past. Just a cute little pedestrianised space, isn't it? And even the little lips that come off the bottom of the pathway here are almost like framing the trains as they pass under. It kind of looks intentional. So I'm really quite super happy with that. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's find the node on the network planter. And I'm just going to slide them up so that the trees frame the pathway. You just see them all move up. There we go. That's exactly what we want. Then there we go. Special. So now let's just adjust the awkward decalage, and then we should have quite a happy sort of design here. It's very new. It's something we haven't tried before. But I think it should be okay. It should lend itself quite nice to Main Street too. Cool, there we go. We can delete those ones just so we expose the pathway. And there we go. People are already using it too to get back and forth. And it's just very cute, isn't it? I hope it's not finished. There is something with traffic manager I'd like to do. So let's come into it, and then we're going to select our train line here. And I think we're going to set it down to 50 miles an hour. For here, or 31 miles an hour, sorry, or 50 kilometers. And that should just slow the train down as it comes through this area of the track. So it's like, you know, they're aware that pedestrians are milling around here. You have to be careful. I think it's okay, isn't it? I've just realised that this planter is backward. I'm going to have to spin that one around. Which we'll do right now. It shouldn't be too much of an issue, I don't think. There we go. Let's just hold Alt while we spin that around. And there we go. Tremendous. Looks like we need to amend that node again a little bit. So there you have it, everyone. That is my take on a pedestrianised train line using pretty much vanilla assets. You could substitute these out for vanilla. A little bit of traffic manager just to sort of tidy things up. I think it's welcome, isn't it? It is. Love the vote for the governor sign in the background there. That's always hilarious, isn't it? Shout out to Karina, everyone, one of our wonderful map makers. Super special. One more thing I want to do in here. This is going to be to drop in some old Green Cities faithfuls. Let's go for... yeah, let's go for these ones. Of course, again, it's just a case of building spawn points needs to be adjusted. I'll have that there. Spin it around and back it onto itself. So it's like this pretty much. And grab both of them. Then we can position them kind of how we like. Maybe to fill this space here. And then some more chair detailing to be had rather, out the back there too. But it gives us like a little bit of cafe space for all the workers to come in. Of course, make sure it's not clipping with the plaza as well. That's going to be tremendous, isn't it? And what a happy little plaza space this has already become. Right, a few parallel networks and some decals with the elevated little layer in there. It goes a long way to bring in some sort of 11 secret herbs and spices into the build, doesn't it? Very nice indeed. Super. So now that our main sort of train corporate plaza space is starting to piece together, I'd like to have a little chat about what we're going to do with the sort of surrounding areas and also a little bit of development along this side of Main Street too. So we did move a car park, so let's come into our parking roads and we're going to go ahead and grab this one for right now, and then we'll grab a 40-meter poorly maintained. Should be alright, I think. Yeah, we'll go for this one. Go off the guideline. We'll go for nice happy 30 units. And then we'll bring this down around. It can connect into here. This asymmetrical road can also jump through to the other side now. And this should keep everyone mostly happy, I think. Let's also switch it there too. Tremendous. Okay. And then something that we've seen in Phoenix before, and is especially prevalent on Main Street, we're going to search chain link fencing, is that we do just have open desert spaces that haven't been developed yet. You imagine they're kind of up for sale, waiting for some sort of, corporation to come in and, develop the space into perhaps another one of these sorts of plazas. But very much just desert space that's been left for development. I wouldn't like it to carry on everywhere, ideally. Hopefully we can maybe bring in another junction on this collector road here. Actually, maybe let's move down into a little dirt road. Okay, so like it's kind of factoring in the construction of actually what's happening here. So let's bring these chain link fences across using our favourite linear fence fill, of course. Yeah, and then just have them up and against the train line. Of course, some overgrowth. Some no trespassing signs will also be welcome in these spaces. But just a little bit of Main Street development. It's not quite ready yet. Mini construction site, if you will. Very, very subtle, but it actually does make a difference to the towers, doesn't it? So, I'm happy with that. Cool, we'll of course drop in our parking spaces during our detailed time lapse, of course. Actually just wondering if it's possible to just come through like this and then perhaps do a little bit of sort of mass offsetting with the red and the green. There we go. Now if we can square this off, there we go. Let's set the blue one too. Okay, obviously spaces are highly decoratable out here. So now let's talk about some plaza detailing. Let's have a look for one of our planters. I think I'm going to go for this little XL number. Yes, this seems good enough to me. So I want to draw in a little pattern of 3. Okay, now bear with me here. So what I want to do with these is just fuse them together so that middle sort of concrete texture disappears. And then using the 3 of them, we can repeat that idea up at the top. So I think for that one I'm actually going to leave a little bit of the concrete there in between. Okay, let's go ahead and grab this now and we'll place this on our corner just so people are kind of walking right against it, if you will. Okay, that's fairly cute, I think, isn't it? And then let's just chisel out a design out of these now. So why don't we go for perhaps one more here. Why don't we then double it up onto this side so we start to generate some different patterns. And we'll leave that concrete verge in there again. There we go. And then we can maybe chisel one of them out. Though let's not lose our tile decals if we can. It's going to be a pain to get replaced, but there we go, that should do it. And then we can possibly do the same over here as well if we like. I think maybe we chisel that one. Then we can have the pattern come back into this space. Yeah, in hindsight I think I'm going to remove that concrete verge there. Cool, so that gives us an interesting flower design. Let's now search for jets, or jeets apparently according to my typing. There we go. Then we can get some of our favourite little water fountains in here, I think, can't we? Let's maybe go for a larger one over this side. Then we'll get a 40-meter jet on the edge of the last tile. Something like that. Seems pretty cute to me. Go ahead and search for bushes. That's about the thing what we will do, just have a little browse through our smaller collections, see what we can find. I think these wildflower clusters are quite tasteful. And we can maybe just have these surround the water jets and make it look quite nice, quite official. And I don't think some sort of smaller trees would be totally out of the question here. Just a little sort of designed corporate garden, if you will. I want to try and stay away from the palms here if possible. That should be alright, to be fair, I think. Right, what's nice from the street view here, it's going to kind of draw attention to the front of these very important looking, clearly corporate towers. I'm happy with it. Cute. Of course, once we've got it in, it's just a case of grabbing trees and the props that we want, everything that's been placed down. We can copy and paste it, and hopefully with luck on our side, we'll give it a little rotate. And then again, just orientate it so it's flush with the pavement, and it looks as though people are kind of walking alongside it. Tremendous. That's pretty cute, isn't it? I'm a huge lover of that. So there's lots of possibilities and variations with these plazas. You know, we've taken them in different vibes over here before with our little bench and gravel planters. Of course, you could do the same thing with the gravel ones if you don't want the grass there either. Again, I'm taking inspiration from Phoenix. So, you know, the planters outside of these towers in real life are grass. So it's a nice little bit of colour variation for us over this side too. Alright. Cool. I'm happy with that, and of course we can, you know, work with these ideas as we move further into the plaza spaces. So there's already people walking now. And she's heading over there, I think. But very cute. Very happy indeed. Yeah, so the last thing I'd like to talk about in terms of detailing for these areas of Main Street is what's going to happen here. They've been left pretty abandoned for quite a long time. So I think I just want to bring in a little bit of modern city centre commercial in this space over here. We're going to fully surface paint this as well. And then I just want to make a little sort of delivery collection admin area for this commercial that sits against the rail line. So just our favourite commercial assets do have a little bit of commercial demanding, so we should be okay. Making sure we're kind of optimised for space and nothing's breaking horrendously. And then can we find a nice little corner asset here? Maybe this one will work quite tastefully. Especially if we expose that little sort of beer garden it's got in it toward the side of the street. Something like that. That's going to work really nicely on the corner there, isn't it? Yes, please. Cool. And then lots of box and prop detailing over this side will also make sure that we carry on the chain link vibes for this side of the rail line. And then we'll get some usual stuff in there, some sort of chucking container props, etc. General kind of scar decals. We will have a look at the decals while we're here already. That's very sort of big stains is the one that we're after. If we can first turn down our brush size, that would be helpful. And there we go. Okay, so a few little scuff marks behind. Major, maybe bring in some dirtier pullers if we want, maybe near the train line. Would be appropriate. Adds a lot more personality into those sort of delivery areas around the back if you do this. Cool. And then of course boxes and trailers and stuff to be done during our detailing time lapse, but it's going to fill out what is quite an awkward little spot in Main Street, so I'm happy to have it look like that. There should be quite a nice time, I think. Should be anyway. It's a really weird collection of builds today, but here we go. Let's see the train pass through with its speed setting. Looks really cool sat here with the planters either side, doesn't it? Very nice. I've just noticed that the planters are sort of enveloping the benches a little bit, so they might just want sliding over a touch, but we can sort that out, of course. However, guys, that does feel like a good point for a detailing time-lapse. We're going to just make another area here and chuck the American Eclectic theme on it. Things that we've used before, you know, we know how to use these themes now. And then just allow some more suburban sprawl to flank a side of the mark grid. Come into our main plaza detailing, drop in some tables and chairs and bins and general kind of inner city plaza-y type detailing, some planters through here as well. And perhaps a few more little fountain gardens knocking around this plaza. Just sort of play with the ideas and different shapes and tree designs and see what we can come up with. Plenty more delivery and service painted detailing around this side of the train tracks, like we've already talked about over this side. And then just make sure everything's chain linked up and sort of official looking and just generally tying today's developments into Main Street a little bit more organically than it is at the minute. But this should be quite a fun detail in time-lapse. Let's detail the big corporate plaza on Main Street, shall we? Okay guys, so let's have a detailing review, shall we? Along the main street here against the car parks, we've drawn in a new planter, which is our gravel ones again. We've tried to make that little sort of pill shape out of them, with some bins and some benches alongside in a mash repeated pattern. Again, taking inspiration of what sits alongside Main Street in Phoenix. Sometimes we do just have a lot of sort of public relaxation space, if you like. I'm sure there is an official term for it. But either way, we have also totally chain linked fenced off the main rail line as it sinks underground, before emerging back out again as it enters into the downtown transport hub. Again with another car park over here, and a little Shell petrol station on the corner too, which is quite nice. Along the main street itself, we have brought in some gentle green IMT against the tram line, just so that texture carries on across the junctions and really marks out where the tram comes up and down Main Street. A touch of service in the form of a fire station too, with some planters between our car parking where there's a new multi-storey in here as well. Our little sort of main plaza space is now complete again with more planter designs using benches, flowers and jets, just to help bring a little bit more importance and randomness to it. Again, looking back over what's actually in Phoenix in these spaces. Just places where you can come and sit, you know, get out of the intense midday sun in the shade of the banking towers here. I did say banking. And then some more planter designs out the front with some gentle King Leno white fence, which works really nicely. Just kind of cordon off the whole plaza, make it its own little thing, and I'm just very happy with how it's turned out. It's a really nice, recognisable bit of Main Street, isn't it? And these themes continue around all sides of the plaza as we come in. And then there's also some more planter designs with trees here along this bit of the pedestrian pathway. It's just so tightly packed together and just so nice. I'm just really super happy with it. Across the street in the American Eclectic suburb, of course, this is organically zoned American Eclectic theme, so it will have to move through its construction stages. But honestly, I don't really mind this sort of stuff. It's like, you know, this is a new development, it's in the process of being built. And you know, maybe a couple of months ago it did look like this one. And you know, it's now sort of got its construction sites down and they're just getting ready to, you know, move some initial resources over into this pact, but it's still very much empty desert. That's perhaps still in its negotiation phases for development with sort of the city council, if you want some Ilos law. And then further down the train track towards the tram and train convergence point, we do just have those prop detailing pallets in with trailers, bins and little decals, more crates, shipping containers as well, alongside a little bit of chain link fencing just to add a little bit of industrial service area behind this commercial, because it's a really awkward space to work with. So a few props and a few decals go quite a long way in sort of tying all that together. And generally, I'm just super happy with it, with how it sits in Main Street here, especially with these sports fields in the foreground. It's very Phoenix, and it always makes me smile when we sort of, you know, really hit the nail on the head with a themed build like this. And it's a fine addition into Main Street, especially if we are to, you know, zoom right across to the other side of the Mar grid. You know, we can see those very recognisable pops in height that are separate from the downtown, which is something that we're trying to respect, of course, as we continue to sort of head south back into the Mar grid out of the downtown space. However, guys, that is going to do it for today. Let's thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed, likes, comments and shares below really help me out. If you've hated it, then please feel free to leave me a dislike as well. A really cute plaza space here, and perhaps a little practice for plazas and promenades, playing with pedestrianised spaces like this. Should have a lot of fun with that in Ilos, I'm sure. I think what we will do when the DLC drops is we will make a pedestrianised Mar grid frame. You know, perhaps a homage of how we can fix America's most car-centric city with a pedestrianised area. That might be quite fun. But either way, if you do have ideas or thoughts and suggestions for the plazas and promenades builds to feature in Ilos, get them down in the comments below. Please do hang around for some cinematics, but otherwise I will shut up and I will leave it there. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. As always, enjoy the rest of your day.